I think we're all aware now that Gen Z has been struggling to get and maintain a job, supposedly. And I've covered a few reasons as to why that is in previous videos. I've also called out Gen Z for their whiny victimhood behavior and mentality. I'm not blaming Gen Z themselves 100% for what's going on right now. Like I said, I've done other videos on AI being a huge part of the problem. I know boomers are staying in their jobs too long. The jobs that Gen Z thought were promised to them just aren't actually available anymore. There's a lot of different factors here. Like I said, I'm not blaming Gen Z entirely for the situation. I do believe they tend to make the matter worse for themselves. There are things that they could be doing about it. A lot of them don't want to do. They just want to blame the government. But that being said, I've got a video for us today kind of doing a bit of a deep dive on what the issues actually are. And maybe this is a reality check for me. Maybe there's other things going on and it just 100% isn't Gen Z's fault. And there's literally nothing they could do about it. I don't know.
85% of all resumes and job applications are reviewed and rejected automatically by AI software.
There is a growing disconnect in today's economy that we need to address.
And might I add, I gave some suggestions on what they could do to get around that. So you could at least try a little bit harder, implement some different strategies, because whatever decade or generation we're talking about, there's always going to be issues. There's always going to be struggles in getting a job or with the economy or starting a family or whatever it is. There's always going to be stuff. Okay. You just got to think outside the box, get creative, get crafty, get strategic, and do something about it. We can't just sit around and whine all day. There will always be problems, no matter how old or young or what year it is, okay?
On paper, the job market looks stable, yet for the youngest generation of workers, the reality is a complete structural breakdown. As of early 2026, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York reports that the underemployment rate for recent college graduates has surged to 42.5%, its highest level since the 2020 COVID lockdowns. Furthermore, data from major career platforms shows that over 35% of all entry-level job postings now explicitly require at least 3 years of professional experience.
Okay, and let me tell you, that's been going on for a long time. I'm not Gen Z, I'm a millennial. Even when I was in the job market, I experienced that as well. So I understand the frustration with that, truly. But again, we got to work around it.
We are moving away from a model where firms invest in training toward one where they expect immediately productive assets. Instead of developing talent, the modern economy now externalizes the cost of training, demanding that entry-level candidates arrive with expert-level skills to generate an immediate return on investment.
Yeah, and that's true. Like I said, you do see that on a lot of different job descriptions. That being said, why are we not giving them this experience in college? Why are they just memorizing shit in books, taking exams? Why are they not getting real world training and experience in college so they are going to be an asset immediately in the job market? Why are jobs expected to handhold these individuals? And also, what I also want to say is part of the problem too is the Gen Z doesn't know how to sell themselves. And a lot of them didn't even have jobs in college, before college. They've been handheld and babied through their entire lives. So even though they have the book smarts now from their degree, they don't even have any real world experience that might be applicable to the job that they're trying to apply for.
In this video, we're going to analyze the drivers behind this Gen Z job apocalypse. We'll look at the data to see why the traditional path to a middle-class career is being systematically dismantled.
You try being Gen Z and try getting a job, see how long it takes you. My generation is entering the most cooked job market of all time. It's so bad that for the first time, the new grad unemployment rate is higher than the unemployment rate overall.
To understand the gravity of this shift, we have to look at the long-term trend of de-skilling the entry-level workforce. Historically, a college degree was viewed by employers as a signal of raw potential. You were hired because you were capable of being trained. The company expected to invest in your development. However, since the late 1990s and accelerating after the 2008 financial crisis, the economic burden of professional training has shifted from the employer to the employee. This has led to a massive spike in credential inflation. Roles that previously only required a high school diploma now demand a bachelor's degree as a baseline.
You have to think too, though, hiring these younger generations is a liability to these companies because they don't have the mindset that the boomers had, where they were going to play the long game with their job. They were going to stay with that company for 35 years, 40, until they retire. Companies have caught on to the mindset that younger kids have of just job hopping and trying to find the next position that'll pay even higher and is even less of a commute and is even less of a workload. And what is the easiest thing I can do to get as much money in my pocket with as little work as possible? And you might be thinking, well, isn't that everybody's MO? No, absolutely not. Because a lot of people actually care about learning and growing and pushing themselves and being challenged and being the best that they can be in their career, in their position. And I think older generations too valued had the same amount of value placed on a wider array of positions than now. I think we've kind of narrowed what people consider a high quality, high value position. So people who are looking for a job or career in something that is lower than that, they don't care as much about being the best that they can be at that job. And that's really sad, but companies have to protect themselves now.
As the real-world value of those roles has diminished. Modern hiring is no longer a human-centric evaluation of potential. Most mid to large-scale firms now utilize applicant tracking systems, ATS, configured with hard filters. If a resume does not meet a predefined years of experience threshold, it is programmatically discarded before a human recruiter ever reviews it. This has created a profound competency gap. Because companies are increasingly unwilling to subsidize the first 2 years of a worker's learning curve, they've started filling junior roles with overqualified candidates who have been displaced from mid-level positions. This doesn't just raise the bar, it effectively removes the bottom rung of the career ladder, forcing recent graduates into the gig economy or low-wage service work that offers almost no path for professional advancement.
What they could do, and I just made a video on this, is they could look at a trade, hop into the trade blue collar work that nobody wants to do, or look at an adjacent a position that's adjacent to what it is you thought that you were after. And I know people are going to come after me because I need a reality check and I'm not the one out there looking for a job. You don't know the struggles I've gone through when I was in the job market, okay? Maybe I could relate. I'm not going to get into it, but maybe I could relate, okay? It's not just you Gen Zers. We've had to deal with it too. We've had to deal with this stuff for years now. But also, just in general, the mindset that people have compared to 40, 50 years ago. It's this, like I said, whiny, oh, this sucks, I can't do anything about it, instead of how can I get scrappy? Well, great. I'll be underpaid at this startup. At least it's going to give me the learning experience. I'll work 2 jobs. I'll hustle. There was this positive energy behind having to work around these types of challenges. Versus now, it's like, I just got out of college. This is supposed to be easy for me. Again, that being said, I understand that so much of this is driven by like what they're describing, how AI is running all of the search for candidates, how they are filling positions with overqualified candidates. I understand, I empathize, but there's another side to this.
One of the most overlooked factors in the current job crisis is the documented distortion of guest worker programs. While these programs were designed to supplement the U.S. workforce with specialized talent, recent federal data reveals they are increasingly being used to displace entry-level domestic graduates. In March 2026, the U.S. Department of Labor issued a major proposed rule to overhaul H-1B wage levels. The reason? The department explicitly stated that the current system has been, quote, deliberately exploited to replace, rather than supplement, U.S. workers with lower-paid, lower-skilled labor.
Yes,
the data
that has been a problem.
The DOL found that on average, the wages offered to visa workers were a staggering $10,191 lower than the standard market rate for similarly classified jobs. A study by the Economic Policy Institute revealed an even more troubling trend. The top 30 H-1B employers implemented roughly 85,000 layoffs in a single year, while simultaneously filing for over 34,000 new H-1B visas. This creates what experts call a legal experience wall. By listing junior roles that require hyper-specific niche experience that a domestic grad couldn't possibly have, companies can technically claim they couldn't find a qualified American. This allows them to bypass local talent in favor of visa-sponsored workers who are often paid 20% to 40% less than their domestic peers. In late 2025, the government launched Project Firewall, a multi-agency federal initiative specifically designed to investigate this abuse. It is a formal recognition that the entry-level market hasn't just become more competitive, it has been structurally manipulated to favor the bottom line over the development of the next generation of American professionals.
But, I honestly don't know, tell me in the comments if you do, isn't this affecting all levels of the job market? I don't think that this is an issue just with entry-level positions. Let me know in the comments below. I'm not sure.
Then we have the most immediate threat, artificial intelligence. There is a common narrative that AI will only augment jobs, but for the entry-level market, the reality is much more binary. A recent study by MIT using the Iceberg Index found that AI can already technically automate roughly 12% of the total labor market tasks. While that sounds small, those tasks are heavily concentrated in the junior tier: data processing, basic research, initial coding drafts, and administrative coordination. By the end of 2027, nearly 47% of companies expect to reduce or entirely eliminate their entry-level hiring because AI tools can handle the output of a junior employee for a fraction of the cost. The CEO of Anthropic has predicted that 50% of entry-level white-collar roles could be disrupted within the next few years. The danger here is the pipeline collapse.
Again, like I said, maybe we should start looking at trade jobs, start looking at those blue-collar jobs. A lot of them pay really well because a lot of people don't want them anymore. They were sold a lie that you're only good enough and can make a lot of money and are worth anything if you get a white-collar job. So case in point right there, let's think out of the box. Let's go down a different path in life.
If a company uses AI to do the work of 5 junior analysts today, they save money this quarter. But in 5 years, when they need a senior analyst, they will have no one internally who understands the foundational work because no one was ever hired to learn it. We are trading our long-term institutional knowledge for short-term digital efficiency.
And then the company is going to go bankrupt, and then the company is going to disappear. And one of these Gen Zers who was waiting around for an entry-level job and instead got something else, now has the skill set and the drive and the savings and the mindset to go start a company that will eventually replace that one. See how that works? Like, we can't just sit around and whine and complain. Let these companies shoot themselves in the foot. All of you are about hating big corporations and hating millionaires and billionaires. So let them crumble, okay? Let them fall to the ground. Isn't that what you all want?
Well, where does this leave the professional landscape? The traditional progression from graduate to entry-level to mid-career is no longer a functioning economic model. The implications are quantifiable. Economists at the National Bureau of Economic Research refer to this as economic scarring. Graduates who enter a depressed market earn significantly less for up to 15 years compared to those who enter during growth. We are approaching a massive institutional knowledge deficit. According to a global Oracle study, 72% of business leaders admit the sheer volume of data and their lack of trust in data has stopped them from making any decision. And 70% confess they would prefer to just have a robot make their decisions for them. Research from Harvard Business Review warns that by automating the grunt work of junior roles, the research, the data cleaning, the basic coding, companies are stripping away the formative discomfort required to build expertise. You cannot have a senior architect who never learned how to lay a brick. By removing the bottom rung, corporations are effectively liquidating their future leadership to save on short-term costs. The data suggests we are at a tipping point. A nation that fails to integrate its youth into the professional economy is reducing its long-term GDP potential. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what does a society look like when the primary mechanism for career entry is permanently severed? I want to hear your perspective on this. Have you?
Yeah, so all very good points there, but we have to be able to do something about it, work with what we've got in the interim. Like I said, there's problems with every generation. And like I said as well, I have had my own struggles with this when I was in the job market. I get to stay at home now with my baby, so I'm not looking for a job. I'm not dealing with this, but I certainly ran into the issue of not being able to get my resume to a hiring manager or somebody higher up because it was crystal clear I didn't SEO my resume good enough, right? That was, it's a little bit more advanced now with what you all are dealing with, but same situation. I had to get creative. I also used to be in marketing when there's plenty of tools that were coming out. Not AI necessarily, but some AI, all sorts of different types of tools that were cheaper, quicker, faster than hiring somebody like myself. So I think many of us have dealt with this. With every generation, there's advancements in technology that create this same struggle. We just maybe haven't seen it on such a mass scale or had the platform for people to complain about it on such a mass scale, right? Hopefully, because we've seen this in some industries already. Hopefully, a lot of these companies that do use AI or tech to get rid of entry-level positions altogether, hopefully they will realize this may be quicker and cheaper, but the quality just isn't there. It doesn't have that human touch like hiring Bob or Jerry or Sandra would have. Hopefully they'll come to realize that we're already trying to step in and deal with the H-1B visa situation as well. I'm hopeful for all of you. But again, I'm not dealing with that. I'm not dealing with the struggle. If you are a Gen Zer or you know a Gen Zer, you have some sort of firsthand experience with the job market situation right now, tell us about it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. I don't want to sound like I'm sitting here on my high horse, completely naive to what it's like for you right now. So let's have a conversation about it in the comments below. Let's be respectful to everybody who shares their story, and like this video. If you didn't already, give it a thumbs up. Give me a subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers. My first goal here on YouTube. If you liked this and want to see more information come from me, my name is Jennifer Zazira. I'm an American wife and mom who just doesn't like what's going on in our country anymore. And I'm sure you're right there with me. So again, give me a subscribe, comment below, and I will see you next time. Bye.